The Bucks lose again to the Toronto Raptors, a disappointing night at Fiserv Forum, and why this upcoming 5-game road trip will likely determine the Bucks' season. Coming up next on Locked On Bucks.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Bucks. My name is Justin Garcia, joined as always by Camille Davis. We thank you for making this your first listen of the day, each and every day, and for helping make the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcasting network in the industry. You can hear Camille weekly on the Locked On NBA show and find her on the Technical Foul podcast as well. You can hear me each and every game on the Bucks Radio Network. And after every game as well, while you're waiting to get your fix of Frank and Camille on the postgame shows on our local postgame coverage as well. This is a delayed postgame show, Camille, as the Bucks played last night against the Toronto Raptors. And as we said at the top of the show, did not go their way, and a trend that has continued through this season. The one thing about losing is... It at least you become accustomed to it, as we remember from the early 2000s and the 90s, that the more these types of losses add up, by the time we're into January and nearly there, you're like, well, it's one of several that we've experienced, that the expectations have already started to leave the room with the injuries and the way that this team has performed. So while it was a frustrating game, which we'll get to the specifics in a moment, I didn't leave extremely disappointed because, frankly, this is what we've grown accustomed to this season.
It's what we're growing accustomed to, and at least they didn't lose by 40 plus points.
45, yeah. I mean, progress.
Like, at least the game, when I was watching it, felt competitive. It felt like the Bucks could possibly find a way to, like, sneak out a Fiserv Forum.
And
with
the Raptors were trying to tell them, guys, there's I'm telling you, there's a way out of here. Just follow us. We'll lead you there.
Because it was crazy, right? Like you said, like after a while, you kind of get used to it. Like when the game ended and the Bucks lost, it was kind of like, well, all right, that is what it is for this one. And now we look forward to this 5-game road trip that, as you mentioned, is really going to make or break the season for the Bucks. But even this Raptors game, it felt like a game. The Bucks were in it, but it was like because the Raptors were also making some mistakes along the way. Like the Bucks would get a turnover, then the Raptors would turn it right back over. Then it was just kind of like, all right, you kind of want to put some of like the what's the music, like the little circus kind of music behind some of the plays in the game, where it's like they're just giving the ball back and forth to one another over and over again.
Keystone Cop sequences going on there.
Exactly. So it's like you said, like when it finally ended, like you can kind of tell in a few seconds, like, okay, the Bucks, this one is out there reach now. They're not going to find a way to pull this one out. It was a very much, like you said, very much a whelp. That is what it is for this one, for this team.
Positives from the game. I think it was Tyler Ford. I can't remember who the officials were last night, but the thing that stood out most to me about the game, and I should have looked this up or kept my box score, but we got tremendous explanations on the challenges.
Yes.
Like positive number one there, but we should at least touch on the game itself. Coming into it, you looked at the Raptors, and they have not been playing well of late with no RJ Barrett, and the Bucks are going to say, hey, we've been without bigger pieces than RJ Barrett, but yes, we can see how being down those types of guys can throw a wrench into things. I didn't envision RJ Barrett being the guy that holds it all together, but here we are. You looked at it and said, look, here's the opportunity. The Raptors foul a lot and put opponents at the free throw line. Product of that is an aggressive defense. That also leads to a lot of turnovers for Toronto that they force. They don't get to the free throw line quite a bit, and we know the Bucks don't do it all that often either, but you looked at this and said, okay, this is where you're going to have to do it. Like, they foul a lot. Put yourself in a position to get that whistle and get to the free throw line. And in the first half, the Bucks did that. They were 10 of 12 free throws in the first half of this game. The Raptors took zero in the first half. Second half, the Bucks took 4 and the Raptors took 21.
Yep.
I mean, you were better on the glass, sure. 9 offensive rebounds. You matched Toronto in second chance points or points scored off of those reloads. 13 for you. They had 12. Turnovers, you mentioned, were a problem for both teams. You had 16. Raptors had 17, but you did more with those turnovers. You scored 19 points off of them. Toronto gets up and down the floor and plays at a faster pace. We talked about it on one of the recent shows too. Bucks opponents are getting in transition a lot, but their defense has actually been solid. It's a top 10 defense in their efficiency in transition. And again, you held your own on those categories in the turnovers leading to transition. 19-12 advantage Bucks. 3-pointers. Raptors came out a house of fire in the first quarter. They cooled off. You ended up shooting 41% and hit 2 more threes. It doesn't quite add up as much as other games that they've had this season where you look at it and you say, man, where did they lose this game, right? Like points in the paint is still points scored, 44-28, and that's what Toronto does. Where did they lose this game? I mean, it was really just moments down the stretch with Brandon Ingram, and I thought there was a pretty interesting answer we got from Doc after the game we'll get into, but Brandon Ingram hit some big shots. The Raptors were just the aggressors all night. They got into the paint and scored and forced the issue. And then the second half, that became free throws. In the first half, it was easy baskets, right? The Bucks did none of that. Their paint touches remain very problematic, that the offense just keeps moving the ball around the perimeter. And quite frankly, that's pretty easy to defend, especially when you have a team as long as the Raptors defensively, we can recover if we just got to keep guys on a string and move over to the next station.
Yeah, you can't make it easy for them. Like in this game, it felt like to me in the first quarter in particular, the Bucks came out timid is the word I'll use for them, because there were even possessions when like Emmanuel Quigley was driving. And you would see like KPJ put his hands up to show the ref, like, I'm not fouling, because we know a point of emphasis for the Milwaukee Bucks has been stop fouling as much. And you could see at times, especially in the first quarter, where it felt like guys were playing a little bit more timid because they just did not want that whistle to blow on them. And I remember IQ got a real easy ball. Like he got put his shoulder into Kevin Porter Jr. He put his hands up like, I'm not fouling. IQ got a really quick, easy bucket. And it felt like after the first quarter, the Bucks kind of settled down and tried to start, forcing their own will onto the Raptors. But it's hard, right? When Kevin Porter Jr. felt like the only guy with the ball in his hands that could try to touch paint and create something in this game for others. There was no Kyle Kuzma. So we've talked about how wing size is a problem for the Bucks. And now they don't have the one guy who this season has proven to be like their best wing defender in Kyle Kuzma, which who necessarily would have thought that was the case coming into the season. But you could see just how the length and the size of Toronto was giving some of the smaller guys problems. Even when they were in good guarding positions at times, it's just like, you're too little. Like there's nothing you can really do about Brandon Ingram raising up over you in this instance. So I feel like the first quarter kind of got them in a little bit of a hole. They punched back in the second. You saw them punching back a bit in the third. But to your point about the free throws, when I looked at halftime and saw that the Raptors had no free throws in the entire first half, I was like, okay, this is probably going to flip. They went 9 of 13 in the third quarter alone from the free throw line. And I felt like that helped to set the tone for them going forward.
And it was Brandon Ingram. And I said there was an interesting thing that Doc said after the game, or something that stood out to me. So I do want to get into those comments. We also did not even get to another new starting lineup that we saw. I'm sure there's quite a few thoughts on that. So we'll get into those conversations coming up after the break here on Locked On Bucks. This season's heating up, and DoorDash has a way to keep fans in their bag the whole way through. Whether you're watching the highlights, the tunnel fits, or just your favorite player, DoorDash makes the entire season more fun because every player has their bag. With DoorDash, fans have one too. DoorDash keeps your snacks stocked, your gear fresh, and your watch party vibes absolutely on point. There's nights when your team stresses you out, so let DoorDash become your post-game therapy. Sometimes you just need dessert now. Those late-night interviews hit, and suddenly you need chips at midnight. DoorDash is built exactly for that. If the group chat says pull up, DoorDash makes sure you show up, prepared snacks, cups, and even a phone charger for the friend who's always at 2%. From tip-off to overtime, Stay in your bag and order on DoorDash. Get snacks, drinks, gear, whatever gets you through the season delivered right to your door. DoorDash in your bag all season long. Ever feel like money just disappears each month? It happens fast. A few subscriptions here, an impulse buy there, and suddenly the numbers in your bank account don't match the numbers in your head. Rocket Money helps you get clarity, track every dollar, and stay in control of your finances. Because managing your money shouldn't feel like a second job. Rocket Money does the heavy lifting for you so you can save more and stress less. Rocket Money finds subscriptions you forgot you were paying for and helps you clean them up quickly. You can see all of your spending on one dashboard, making it easier to understand where your money is going. And they even automatically build budgets based on past spending to keep you on track without overthinking it. Take control of your finances and cancel your unwanted subscriptions with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/LockedOnNBA today. That's rocketmoney.com/LockedOn. rocketmoney.com/LockedOn. So let's just finish the point on what we saw or what Doc said after the game that stood out to me, but we should touch on the starting lineup. I don't remember the exact quote, but he mentioned what we had just said there, that Brandon Ingram was a problem. And, one of the things we ran into was we had guys like Gary on him, Trent, very, very limited. Gary Harris had to take that assignment, on and on and on. Scoot taking the assignment. And as Doc said, it's a size mismatch that BI was able to get to his spots and just shoot over them. So that's something that we were up against. And I remember thinking before this game tipped and seeing no Kyle Kuzma, like
Andre Jackson Jr. time?
Not even that. Okay, that's as you mentioned, suddenly we're here that's a big piece that you're missing, but especially against a team with Scotty Barnes and Brandon Ingram, where you don't have great. Another thing I didn't love that we'll see in matchups in a second here. This seemed like the time to say, you know what? We're 11-16, so we might as well try something new. We need some length. Kuz is out. Why don't we dust off the old Amir Coffey and see, can you at least give us length and stay in front of Brandon Ingram? I wondered, will we see that today? And the longer the game went on and the more you saw Brandon Ingram just saying, this is easy, man. I can shoot over anyone that you're throwing out there at me. I couldn't believe. Let's at least see it for 3 minutes and see, does this do anything? If not, fine. Back to the bench you go, but we got to try something new here.
Yeah, I was, to that point, shocked that the Bucks only utilized an 8-man rotation with them being shorthanded. Like, I understand that the pieces that you're missing in this game with Giannis and Kuz and TP are big pieces, but like, as you said, we got to try something different here. And on top of that too, this was the return of AJ Green to this game, and he did not look good in his return. Like, off the rip, the very first possession, he's getting blown by. Even some of the decision making just didn't feel like he was really in the right place, and he was pressing a bit. So it's like, okay, he only plays like 23, 24 minutes, something like that in this game. And it's like, if you can see too that this guy who's just returning, who's also part of why you made the change to your starting lineup, because you felt like, okay, AJ Green's back, we can put him back in here and continue rolling forward. Why would you not try to use one of your wings? Like, you went to Amir Coffey, who, as we know, was a non-guaranteed contract in camp. Like, the Bucks got rid of a draft pick, Tyler Smith, to make sure that, they could accommodate some of these guys on the roster here. And he's not even being dusted off in this situation. My mind went to Andre Jackson Jr. because Doc has even said himself, the one thing he knows about Andre is that he's going to defend. In a game like this, where
one thing we know he's going to defend, and
like, why
he at least can control, he's going to play hard.
Yes, every single time. So like, why didn't we at least try this? And that was what shocked me so much. Like, an 8-man rotation on December 18th when you're already shorthanded. Like, I know they've had time off, so the minutes probably don't feel as big in the moment because they've had so much time off. But I was just shocked that not one of those wings touched the floor, especially for me, especially Andre Jackson Jr.
Yeah, well, either one. And he himself acknowledged too, Doc, we didn't have Kuz, we didn't have Taurean Prince. Those are two guys that would have taken the Brandon Ingram assignment. So like, yeah, you're aware of it. So let's maybe try someone else with size. And look, I hate it a lot of times too. And well, why don't you play him? Why don't you play this guy? It's a little different this year because of where you are in the standings. Like in the past, if we're talking about get Pete Nance out there and play him, like, well, they're the 3 seed right now. Like now is not the time for them to do that. Now is the time for you to do that where you currently are. So there is no excuse with it here. You know what? We're 11-16, now 11-17. Let's just try anything that we have here and see if we can stumble into something. You mentioned too, the thing that I don't think any of us anticipated, at least on this show, maybe there were some of you watching and listening that did. The double kick here to the midsection is, boy, the way that this season is starting to go, this would have been a season where you just say, okay, let's see what we got with Tyler Smith, with Chris Livingston. You're going to get thrown into the fire and a lot of playing time. We'll see if we got something here, if we need to move on. And now that's no longer an option. The other matchup that really stood out to me in this one, and it's been a larger conversation and one that's happened quite a bit, is I know people have been disappointed with the production you've gotten from Miles Turner so far this season. I'm not going to say Miles has been good statistically. I think it's a shared burden. It's not just Miles. It's the position that Miles is being put in. Did score 21 points in this game last night, and there was a couple of moments, again, his first basket of the game. It's Miles going to work in the paint and just, okay, Raptors are small. They didn't have Jakob Poeltl. It's Sandro Mamukelashvili and Colin Murray-Boyles are their big. So I'm going to have, just like we talked about with BI, I'm going to have that advantage. Let's utilize this. And then it just slowly continued to disappear on the offensive end with every single possession, Camille. It feels like Miles just goes and sits in the corner. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to assume that's not Miles' preferred spot and style of play, especially having watched him the last 2 years against this team in where he's played and how he's been utilized. So there's that. But defensively, I haven't looked up any of the counts or anything, but it felt like every single possession, you threw Miles Turner on Scotty Barnes, who was pulling him away from the rim and forcing Miles Turner to play on the perimeter. And look, I get Scotty Barnes and Sandro Mamukelashvili. Both of those guys are going to play out there. But if Mamu is going to just say, give me the ball, clear out, and I'm going to go to work on Miles, fine. If this is a 30-point Mamu game, we'll take our chances with the rest of your group. Scotty Barnes, I mean, the time and time again to see them put Miles in a position where you have to defend on the perimeter, you're away from the rim, no rim protection, and you're going to get beat. I mean, we would have thought this was crazy if you put Brook Lopez in that spot a season ago, and we said, hey, Miles gives you a little more mobility than Brook. It's not a ton, right? He is more mobile. He's still that type of center. So why are we going through this again?
I'll tell you one thing about Miles Turner. His attitude and his approach has never wavered, even though it has been such an up and down start to this season for him. He's admitted himself like he's still trying to find his place and understand exactly how he's supposed to be utilized and all of those things. So when the first half started and he was so aggressive, I think he had like 9 or 10 shot attempts in the first half alone. And they were in the flow of the offense at that. Some were off second chance opportunities where he's trying to get the offensive rebound and put it back up. Some were just the open threes that he was able to generate because Kevin Porter Jr., got to paint, touch, kicked out, and he had an open shot. And it felt like, okay, that makes some sense because with this team too, the Raptors play such a switch-heavy offense. And when teams play switch-heavy offenses, it can make opposing teams try to create their own shots even more because they're not able to create certain advantages that they have been used to creating when teams are, trying to play straight up and just like, okay, I'm going to follow you through the pick. I'm going under, I'm going, whatever the case may be. And I was okay. And then without Jakob Poeltl, it felt like this could be a game for the Bucks bigs, and it was starting that way. Bobby continued to finish it. He had a great game offensively. I thought Bobby was aggressive on the glass too in this game, and that's what you need from Bobby night in and night out. The offense has to be there. The rebounding has to be there consistently. It felt like he found his place, but as you mentioned, when the game went on for Miles Turner, I know he got into foul trouble too, so maybe that kind of got him out of rhythm a little bit, wherever the case may be, but it felt like the flow of the offense just shifted considerably. And the offense also looked considerably different in, I think, the 8 minutes that Kevin did sit, because I think Kevin played 40 minutes in this game. And it just, the the construction of this roster is already tough when you have the injuries they're facing. But as we've talked about, I've been saying it too over late more often, it's like the coaching staff has to also put them in better positions to win, because in the fourth quarter, I think it was, I know it was second half for sure, there were a few possessions in a row where the offense was just stalled, where the ball's just moving side to side. There is no paint penetration. It's very easy to defend, to the point where the way that the Raptors were playing defense with the switch heaviness of it all, like they were playing a zone because they didn't have to move. Like they just kept watching the ball go around. Like, okay, we're here, we're here, we're here, we're here. And it's just, it's like you saw something was working in the first half with Miles Turner. I'm not sure why they went away from it.
I don't know. 6 of their 12 free throw attempts too in the first half. He was playing aggressive, but it continues to be more the same for this group this season. What was not more the same was the starting five. We mentioned that was different, so we got some thoughts on that. We'll get into what we saw, whether or not this is something we're going to see going forward. Doc may have tipped his hand in his post-game comments there as well, coming up after the break here on Locked On Bucks. Time to talk to you about our friends over at Gusto. No one starts a business for the joy of calculating tax withholdings or managing payroll spreadsheets. That's where Gusto comes in to take the stress out of payroll, benefits, and HR so you can focus on running your business and supporting your team. Gusto is the all-in-one remote-friendly payroll and HR platform that makes managing your team simple, transparent, and fast. Whether you're hiring, onboarding, or paying employees, Gusto helps you do it all from one place without the hassle or hidden fees. Unlimited payroll runs for one monthly price, which means no surprise charges at the end of the month. Their automated tools offer letters, onboarding materials, and direct deposits to save you hours each week. And knowing you have an HR certified expert you can reach out to at any time gives you real peace of mind. So try Gusto today at gusto.com/lockedonnba and get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's right, 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/lockedonnba. One more time, that is gusto.com/lockedonnba. Well, you've already living your team, or you already are every day, and now take it up a level. Go ad-free. Join the Air Club. Get Locked On Bucks with no interruptions. Members-only Discord access. I wonder what we would possibly be talking about now in that Discord. And more, all for just $5 a month, or go annual and save $50 for the year subscription. We'll paste the URL to sign up for the Everyday Air Club in the episode description of today's show. Starting lineup, Camille.
Yeah.
So first of all, I heard what it was going to be before the game, and I sent something to our chat with you and Frank. Like, curious to see your thoughts. I didn't tell you guys what the lineup was going to be.
You did not.
Did this match your expectations?
No, I didn't know what to. I was like, okay, without Kuzma, I was like, is he just going to put AJ Green back? I thought maybe the change was going to be seeing Rollins to the bench, maybe. But I was just kind of like, okay, probably like Bobby Portis would start in this game next to Miles. I did not expect Sims and Turner to be the starting front court with Gary Trent Jr. still in the starting lineup with AJ Green returning. That was a little surprising to me there. And yeah, didn't get off to a great start here. And then even in the second half, you saw that when the team came back out there, it was Bobby Portis out there starting next to Miles Turner.
It all bleeds together now. Was it the first quarter where we saw timeout, or second quarter timeout, 2 minutes into play.
That was the first quarter.
The Raptors. Yeah,
that was the first quarter. It was like a 9-2 start, and it was just kind of like, all right. I was at the like timeout, timeout. Like, please call it.
Yeah,
I need it right now.
AJ did not look good.
No.
Doc said as much after the game that he basically, by the end of the game, just viewed it as getting him burned and getting him minutes to kind of burn some cardio for him and get him back into the swing of things, which, like, fine, because here's the thing. 3 games that it's 2 weeks because of the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
It's been 2 weeks since he played. It was the Sixers game. I don't know that you need to start AJ in his first game back.
Right.
Back from, like, find a spot for him and work him back into the mix. We kind of knew it was coming with the comments after practice a couple of days ago of, like, I'd really be interested once we get healthy to break up Ryan and KPJ. I think you agreed. I said I think that's foolish and ridiculous because, look, at this point, you just, it's the same conversation as a year ago. You've got to play your best players, and you got to play them the most minutes, and you've got to play them together to see what works here. And Ryan Rollins is one of your best players. Kevin Porter Jr. is one of your best players. So, like, those guys need to start together and play together, not just for this season to, dig yourself out or crawl out of the hole that you dug yourself and turn things around, but for go forward too, to see, how does this work? Do we need to address one of these? Is this potentially something we're looking to move on from, that, these guys could be carrying value in a month or so? We may all of a sudden be looking at a pretty good pick, like the lesser of the 2 picks between us and the Pelicans may end up being a top 5 pick. So, are we going to address something there? And if we do find a guard in the draft, what does that mean for these two, and what are their roles? So, like, you just need more sample size of these two guys playing together. The case that was made after this game tonight by Doc was the Raptors' aggressive defense and the style that they play, and we want to maximize having these guys on the floor. Like, we have minutes with Ryan on the floor. We have minutes with Scoot on the floor. Let's just ignore the fact that we have routinely and repeatedly been told Ryan is not a true point guard. We're still teaching him how to do that. Fine, but there are other ways to get there. You start both of them, and you say one of them is coming out 4 minutes into the game, and you're not coming back until very late in the first quarter or in the second quarter, and then you're running the offense and vice versa, and we're doing that from there. But this is not the way. This is not the path to say, you know what we're going to do? We're going to start to take our best players out of the starting lineup and put them on the bench. We tried that for a year last year. We've seen bad Bucks teams do that in the past. That is not your recipe for success. The way they started the game and the way they started the second half is partially there. Like, at this point, if you're playing without Giannis and Kuz, the starting lineup needs to be Miles Turner, Bobby Portis, Kevin Porter Jr., Ryan Rollins, and then one of those two guys. You pick AJ Green or Gary Trent Jr., but that's your 5. That's what we need to see steady sample sizes of and go from there. But look, there was a couple of more sequences with Jericho Sims. One, I don't know whose fault it was. There was that awkward fast break with he and Ryan Rollins.
I put that one on Ryan. Like, you got to know your personnel and throw that up to him, or at least get it to him a little bit early.
Well, and it kind of seemed too like Ryan wasn't quite sure, can I take this myself? And then at the last minute decided, no, I'll give it to Jericho. But just throw lobs to Jericho. Don't do the dump off pass there. But that's it, right? Jericho Sims had a couple of those nice sequences with Ryan where he sets the screen high for him and then immediately rolls to the rim, as we've all been told. You need a rim roller, and that's what Jericho Sims does. And he finished there and finished with 6 points. That's the limitation of his game right now. And it's not just scoring. It's everything else that he does with the ball. I mean, the moment he catches it, he is looking to get rid of it. And that is a problem for a team that is struggling to score the ball right now without Giannis, and a team that has put such an emphasis on the defensive end, which is why Miles Turner is playing so far away from the rim, to say, let's limit paint touches for the opponent. Well, you didn't do a good job of it yesterday. You haven't done a good job of it for most of this season. But also, if that is our stance, and we are saying the most important thing in the league is to limit paint touches because that's where your defense breaks down. Would you not apply that to your offense and say, you know what, we should probably try to do the same thing?
Yeah, and I think that's the intent of the offense. It's just like they're not doing it. Like I mentioned, it felt like Kevin and Ryan, but mostly Kevin, has been the only guy who can consistently touch paint. And it was like a lot on his shoulders in this game. Again, switch heavy offenses they tend to make you do a little bit more with the ball. And that's part of why Kevin finished with 7 turnovers in this game.
Yeah.
In addition,
6 in the first half, though. So
yeah, he cleaned it up.
Progress.
Yeah, and honestly, some of them were miscommunications. Ryan even had a turnover too, where it's miscommunication, where it's like you thought a guy was going to continue to stay still, but they started to move, and the ball flies out of bounds, wherever the case may be. Maybe too much mustard on the pass, but like I said before the season started, when you have young players too, there's going to be the ups and downs, the growing pains, but the only way that they learn through it is the playing opportunity. So like, you don't want your point guard having 6 turnovers in the first half. Glad it was only 1 in the second, but like that's going to be continued part of the growth of Kevin Porter Jr.'s game, especially in this situation where the team is shorthanded and the way that they thought it would be operating with Giannis at the helm is not the way that they're able to do business here. Even with Ryan, understanding him and the ups and downs for the season that he's had of, hey, there's no Kevin Porter Jr. The ball is in your hands. You do everything, to adjusting to playing a little bit more off ball, to now adjusting again to like, okay, I'm back off the bench. Like there has been so many different adjustments that these 2 young guards are trying to make and understand and play through. So I give them grace through it because you only continue to get better through your playing opportunities. And without Kevin Porter Jr. doing what he was doing, some of the shots at the rim probably shouldn't have took him, but he was there. Like you go and try to do what you can do, try to draw the fouls. I think more than anything for Kevin in particular, the next step in his growth too is just not letting the emotions of the game frustrate him to the point where he's slow getting back on defense and he's putting his teammates in a bad situation where now they're playing 4-on-5 because he's taking too long to get back, or letting that frustrate him and affect his play on defense. So again, the growth of the guards has to continue to happen. I'm not too upset about that part of it. Like without Kevin Porter Jr. in this game, I don't know what this team would have looked like.
The emotions of the game for KPJ were not good yesterday. There wasn't good body language. He allowed some of the calls to kind of fester and get into him. And I do think that's an area where you've seen some growth from Ryan Rollins throughout the season, that I think he's had that message from Doc of all people too, telling him just play through it. Who cares? Go get down on the floor, to get on the other end of the floor defensively and just keep playing. So I think Ryan has made some progress there. Scoot, you got to see the same. It's what was it Robert Frost that had it, the old saying too, the only way out of it is through it. That's where you are with young guys. We didn't anticipate that being the motto of this season, but that's where we are. We have not even touched on the elephant in the room yet, and that was a 25-minute session between Giannis and reporters. We're going to carry that over into its own episode. So you'll get 2 episodes today where we will share our reactions to what Giannis had to say, but I wanted to keep this one specifically about the game and the post-game breakdown of another disappointing loss for this Bucks team. So we said at the top of the show, too, that 5-game road trip or 5 road games, it's not technically a trip. The Bucks are going to return home, I think, twice during that trip. It's going to determine your season.
Yeah.
You're 11-17 right now. You are now a full game back of the Chicago Bulls. You're 2 back of them in the loss column. And right now, the Charlotte Hornets are only 1 back of you in the loss column. You have the Hornets on this road trip. You have the Pacers on this road trip, who are 4 back in the loss column. You have the Washington Wizards, your first game after this road trip, who are also 4 back in the loss column.
3. They got 20. Oh, no, you're right. 4. We got 17 losses. We're not add on to it.
Yeah, let's not jump to assumptions.
Let's not jump the gun here. You're right. Yeah.
A 1-4 road trip, which at this point, that's kind of how the Bucks have played. A 1-4 road trip would put you at 12-21. And I mean, I would assume that would carry losses against the Hornets and Pacers. So
It can
If
get
things,
dire real quick.
yeah, I mean, if things go south on this trip, and you do look at a 1-4 road trip, and you do suffer losses to those two teams, there is a very strong possibility by the time those 5 road games end, you're in a spot where you're like tied with the Nets for the second or third worst record in the conference. And at that point, you're suddenly 5 or 6 games back in the loss column, potentially, of teams like the Bulls, who are clinging to that last spot in the play-in tournament. We said nobody decides their path in December. The road trip ends in your penultimate game in December. Then you got that Wizards game, New Year's Eve, which, again, there's not going to be Giannis, right, in the timeline that he gave us. So, yeah, it could start to get very, very bleak by the time we get to January, depending on what you do with these 5 games that are coming up on the road. The first of those is Sunday in Minnesota against the Timberwolves. So you got the T-Wolves. As we mentioned, you do have the Hornets, you do have the Pacers, you do have the Bulls, who are also in front of you. And you got the Memphis Grizzlies, who, a couple weeks ago we would have said, all right, this is a winnable trip. When you look at the banged-up Pacers team, the Hornets, the Bulls, the Grizzlies, Timberwolves is really the toughest one. Would any of us be shocked if the Bucks win the Timberwolves game and lose the rest of them with the way that Minnesota has had a tendency to play with their food? And Memphis, too, started, 4-11? They've gone 9-3 since then. So it's going to be very telling here on this road trip. We've said that over and over again, but we've seen nothing to show you otherwise. Like, all the opportunities you've had to steer the ship in the other direction, you haven't taken it, and now you're staring directly at the iceberg with this 5-game trip on the horizon. Okay, as I mentioned, we're going to have a second show coming up a little bit later today where it's entirely focused on the Giannis conversation and what we heard from Giannis before the game yesterday. If you're done with it and you want to avoid that, I get it. That's why we broke it off into its second show and gave you the post-game of what we saw last night against the Raptors, but some very telling things said in that 25-minute media session with Giannis. So that'll come its way on an additional show in the form of an additional show here momentarily. We thank you, as always, for making Locked On Bucks your first listen of the day and for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network out there. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level. Go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club and get Locked On Bucks with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 for the full year. You can find the URL to sign up in the show notes. And if you're a true diehard, that is the place to be. For those of you that are watching on YouTube, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National NBA YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make that your second listen. NBA game nights on Locked On NBA. For Camille, I'm Justin. We will talk with you guys once again next week on Locked On Bucks.